Welcome back, y'all. This is the Blue Chip Breakdown, and I'm your host, Bull. Listen, I apologize for the previous stream. I don't know what happened with my internet; it just totally dropped. So we're just going to start the whole thing over, and hopefully that won't happen again. But basically, we were just talking about this. Obviously Tennessee's fourth spring practice of 2025, first day in pads, and we have spring break coming up. So yeah, I'm always a little bit concerned about how the players are going to act out there on spring break. We haven't really had any issues that I know of. So hopefully now that they got some more money, they can go to some nicer places and not have to, I guess, I kind of hate to say it this way, but not have to mingle too much, with most of those students. So maybe they'll be in a better crowd just because, again, most of those guys do have some money. They could probably just, their teammates, they could probably just go do their own little thing on like a little private beach or whatever. That's what I'm hoping that they do. Just stay out of trouble and definitely stay safe and stay healthy. But we were just talking about Coach Chop. Okay. And actually, I'm going to bring this bring up the injury report again for everyone that may have missed it. And like I said, the only real change to this from the previous practice is that Mouse Kitsum is not on here. And also Jordan Ross, he's now in yellow instead of orange. Now, he might have been yellow the whole time, but it does sound like he's been doing some things running around out there. And it sounds like he also looks really good. And we'll talk more about him as we go throughout this video. But let's go ahead and pull up these clips. Okay. And I'm going to get back to my notes. And we are going to talk about what Coach G had to say. We're ending off on Coach Chop. The main things with both of these coaches is that they both talked about leadership being big inside of that room. And so Coach Chop is our Leo's coach. That's our edge rusher. And then we also have Coach Garner, who's he's our D-line coach. So he's going to be coaching everybody from ends to tackles. That's what Coach G does, kind of like overseeing at this point because we have so many really good analysts. And now Coach Chop moving up to our Leo's coach and getting those edge rushers right. So now Coach G, he can, again, just be more like that overseer, which is really where I think he needs to be at. So as far as both of the coaches, they talked about leadership looking really good with all the vets inside of that room, but they feel like it can still get better. And I think that it might have been Coach Chop. He actually kind of highlighted Joshua Josephs and said that he's kind of a quiet guy, but he's doing a good job of leading physically. It sounds like Jackson Moore is doing a really good job of being vocal. And Coach G was saying that, you have to talk the talk and walk the walk. So maybe sometimes he's not as consistent with things, but we all know that Coach G, man, look, he's going to be tough on those guys. So outside of that, something that we talked about the previous time that we just tried to do this stream is that Coach Chop is at Tennessee because his daughter loves Tennessee. I think that she's actually going to Tennessee. And, it sounds like his entire family loves it. He really likes how I think that he likes the whole family vibe of Coach Heupel's, entire staff, right? Like just the whole team. And I don't think not even just the coaches, but I think all of Knoxville is a very warm place. And, that's always good. I think that that's a very positive look, and that's part of the reason that so many coaches want to stay with Coach Heupel. So the other portion of this is he talked about Joshua Josephs needing to work more on reading the different pass sets that the offensive line is showing them. And we talked about, versus Georgia, versus those Buckeyes, where we're not getting any sacks. I think that might be part of the problem. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of a change just with how the pass rush looks. Hopefully it's going to be a lot more consistent this season as opposed to last year. I think the Coach Chop could definitely help us out with that. And he also talked about Jordan Ross needing to make sure that he's, more mentally focused. He needs to take things a little bit more seriously. And, if he does, he's a guy he's got all the talent. You know what I'm saying? He is one of the most talented pass rushers that Tennessee's had in a long time. I mean, he's right up there with, just about anybody that you could think of. He has it all. So he's got the size, got the length, got the speed. He's shifty. I mean, just everything. So looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to how that room looks over the course of the year. But as far as Coach G, some of the other things that he talked about was building depth. He talked a lot about building depth. So we know that we love to rotate all of our linemen. And this is something, too, that I definitely wanted to highlight with it is understand that Tennessee rotates our D-line way more than most teams do. So just talking about tackles, most teams are only going to be about 2 deep at tackle. Tennessee's 2 deep right now, but we're still trying to add depth because we're used to being, 4 and 5 deep. Actually, we're probably about 3 deep. And, I can say that that's going to be pretty solid. And I'm just talking about at tackle. So do we have to go out to the portal and add another body? I don't think so. I don't think that we need to. I think that that's a situation where if the right person enters into the portal, then Tennessee would definitely try to take them, try to pick up somebody just to give you some more veteran depth. But that would be about the only reason. And it also sounds like Coach G really likes all of the young guys. He talked about Campbell. I talked about Utley because we've got so many veterans that are banged up right now. So they're getting a lot more reps. And that's something that, I mean, you have to love that. And that's why for me, spring, I don't get too upset whenever people are missing time. Not necessarily, not those veterans, because really for spring, it should be more about some of those younger players. Yeah, go out there and veterans get your reps in and things like that. But the younger guys are the ones that really need more reps. Let them get caught up and let's build some more depth from that perspective. Something else that I had actually meant to say, and I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to this here, y'all, real quick. Something I had meant to say earlier is that looking at all these injuries, please don't take this like Tennessee's in a bad spot. That's not the case. Most of these guys are just fine. So if you look at, I would say McCoy, obviously coming off of a ACL, and then we've got Jordan Thomas. He's another one. I don't know. Um, is he on here? I don't know what Emmanuel Okoye is dealing with necessarily. If it's still from the previous season injury, his could be a little bit more serious too. But all of those guys should be ready by the time we kick off. Now, McCoy might not quite be there, but everybody else, they should be ready. Okay, they're probably going to be ready for fall camp. So don't take it like Tennessee's just in a really bad spot with the injuries. All right, so let's pull this part back up, and let me get back to my notes. So whole point there was really just kind of highlighting the fact that Coach G, he wants a whole lot of depth, especially with his tackles. But it sounds like he already likes how those young guys are taken to his coaching. He likes how all the players, veterans, young guys, everybody, he likes how everyone's taken to his coaching. And he's one that's going to be a lot more stern. He's going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not going to sugarcoat it for you. So, it takes a certain type of personality to be able to take to that type of coaching. Now, whenever I was coming up, and I'm sure most of y'all that did play ball, coming up, kind of like old school now, but that's how all coaches were. And I didn't like a coach that wasn't like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need for you to get me right, get my teammates right, because we're trying to win. But now, obviously, the mindset has changed. And when I'm watching, like when I'm going through and watching a lot of team spring practice, like I talked about Oklahoma, dude, I'm watching their coaches standing there talking and laughing with their players. And it's like, what's really going on here? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all are not working. But some players like to go to those types of places. And Tennessee won't ever get them. But honestly speaking, I don't think that I would ever want them inside of, I don't think I would want them on this team, because those guys, while they may have the talent and hopefully they'll still make it. I don't wish bad on nobody, but I'm just saying it takes a little bit of extra. If you want to be a first round pick, if you even want to get drafted, it takes something extra as far as the work that you're putting in. And it's got to be consistent. That's something else that Coach G and Coach Chop said several times is consistency. They said, hey, look, this guy, he's got to be physical on a more consistent basis. He's got to show up and work on a more consistent basis. He's got to show his leadership qualities on a consistent basis. So, that's pretty much it. And he also talked about Tyree Weathersby and Carson Gentle, and I'm talking about Coach G. He talked about those guys and said, hey, I really like what they're doing, and he wants for them to take that next step forward. And with Weathersby, he said, man, he's got some of the heaviest hands on this team. And, whenever he puts his hands on you, he can move you and all of that good stuff. So that's pretty much the highlights of what they said today. Not a whole lot, because they're not going to tell you too much. So let's go on ahead and let's get back into some of the on the field stuff. Let's talk about what's been going on today out in practice. So quarterbacks, didn't even get to see them today. Didn't get to see them do anything. So what I'm going to do for some of these spots that we didn't really get to see go, just because it wasn't as many clips today, I'm just going to kind of give you my overall thoughts on what they've done up to this point in spring practice. So with the quarterbacks, I think that they look good. Could they be a little bit more sharp and crisp? Of course, but we're only 4 days into practice. We haven't even seen them on this fourth day. They might have looked perfect today. We have no idea. We saw them handing the football off and little things like that, but we didn't really get to see them throwing to the wide receivers or anything like that. But yeah, we're hoping that Nico takes that step forward. We're hoping that he will use his legs a little bit more. His processing needs to be a little bit quicker. Now, obviously, he's going to have his reads that he needs to go through on any given play, but can he get there faster? Because if you're going through in this offense, I think a lot of times it might just be 2 reads. Sometimes we're going to see 3 reads. So, it's not going to be, 3 to 4 reads and things like that. For the most part, it's going to happen sometimes, but it's typically pretty quick. Okay. That's the whole point of this offense, is to do things quicker. So if he goes to his reads, boom, 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 he's got to be really good with his pre-snap. I know exactly what this defense is probably going to be in. That's why I love the idea of some pre-snap movements to kind of help. Hey, they're going to shift to this coverage based off of this movement here. And, if they shift to this, then we know that they had to have been in that. So we'll shift them back because we like that first look better. You can see the different pressures and things like that. So he's got to do a really good job with being able to ID how the defense, like what the defense is doing pre-snap. And then that'll help him be faster post-snap with his reads. Okay, look, I was expecting this one. Boom, boom, boom. 1, 2, 3. And then if it's not there, he's got to start to use his legs. It's something that Hendon Hooker did a great job with. Love Merck, love GMAC. Both of those guys are going to continue to grow. They both look, I would say, pretty comfortable, right? GMAC, he's looking even more comfortable. Again, we just saw him handing the football off today. But I love his touch on his passes. I love the ball placement from all of these guys. So that's pretty much all that I have with our quarterbacks. Now let's talk about the wide receiver room. Same thing. We didn't really get to see them do anything at all today. There's no notes on these guys. But looking at this room, obviously, Mike Matthews, we've talked about him every single day, looks good. Him and Staley both look great. I think that Travis Smith also looks really good. He's a big guy. And I guess he's probably going to be playing behind Chris Brazzell. Brazzell started to look a little bit more comfortable. I was excited to see him today with full pads on. I wanted to see how he looked. Is he getting more and more comfortable? Because on the first day, we seen him, drop the football twice. Then on the second day, it looked like he was, a little bit more consistent with his hands. And then on the third day, I think he looked a little bit more comfortable. On the fourth day, I would hope that maybe he took that next step, because obviously we're going to need him as well. Boo Carter moving over to a wide receiver. I love that. And the biggest takeaway about Boo is that everyone that you ask about him, as far as the people on the team, whether it's Nico or whether it's Coach Banks, I think even Coach Heupel might have said it too. But yeah, he's a defense first guy. Tennessee needs him to play at star. Something for us to continue to watch after spring break, and once the team does come back, is how do those underclassmen look playing at star? And we'll talk about that position group a little bit later on. So I would expect that Boo is probably going to see maybe 10 to 12 snaps per game coming up, whenever the season starts. Might be more than that, but I don't think that, maybe try to target him 2 or 3 times. It's not going to be too much, just because we have other players, other mouths that we have to feed, but that's something that he wants to try to do. So we're going to give him those opportunities. And I think that he's going to do a great job with it. He's a phenomenal athlete. I love him I love him with the football in his hands, offense, defense, special teams, period. Obviously, he can make some things happen. So next we have Amari Jefferson. I think that he started to look even better. He's going to get more and more comfortable coming off of a hip injury. That's a hard thing to come back from. But, I think that he's looked pretty solid so far. Can you help us out? I think that him being a guy playing at slot, we've seen him doing some of those, like swing routes and things like that coming from that slot. Haven't seen Tennessee do a lot of that this season, but I love that, just because get the football in his hands quickly, have some blockers out there for him, and just let him get 5 or 6 yards, and maybe even take it further than that. He's a guy that I think is shifty enough that he can make some people miss. That's another spot that Boo's probably going to be utilized at, and that you want to have similar plays when Boo's on the field to when he's off the field. See what I'm saying? So, whatever we're going to do for Boo, we're going to have to do for some of our other slot guys. So Braylon Staley and Jefferson and Dotson, Dotson, whenever he does get up on campus, he's another one. Do not sleep on Dotson. He's a really, really good player. And then outside of that, I think that Rod Jackson. So I saw him in a clip. It was posted by, I want to say, Ball Football or something. I think it was on their Twitter, but he looked good. He looks really good. High point footballs, he just looks normal and natural, and I hope we can see some more reps with him. I don't know why we haven't seen as much of him, but he's one that I really like. So from top to bottom, like we always say, I love all the bodies inside of this room, every single one of them. And I sincerely mean this. Every single one of these guys can play. They can all play, I think, at a high level. So I'm not worried about that. Yeah, there's some youth, but we're going to be fine. But do you still want to go out and add another depth piece with like a veteran guy? Because it's a whole lot of youth. You know what I'm saying? So that's a very strong possibility that Tennessee would try to go out and do something like that, all based off of how does our how do our like walk-on guys look. So next, let's talk about Tennessee's tight end room. And I think I actually have some notes right here. But like we talked about, Miles Kitselman, he was full go today. I'm gonna pull these clips back up for you. Excuse me. So let me get to my notes. One of the things, obviously, that we did see earlier today was that we are doing a whole lot of blocking drills with the running backs, with the tight ends versus the linebackers versus the safeties, and versus Tennessee's star players. Now, Miles Kitselman obviously looked really good. Proud of him. He should look good. So he looked great with that. He's looked good. He's looked consistent over the course of spring camp. And I think that Ethan Davis, he still doesn't look as physical. Now, this is something that P and I both noticed in watching film on him, is it looks like he closes his eyes on contact. And he's a guy that, I mean, you love his skill set. You absolutely love it. And I think he started off playing basketball. It's a totally different mindset. It's hard for a lot of times more basketball players to come and play football, because football, man, like it's almost like Spartans, right? Like like when you look at the Spartans, they were training their kids from the time that they were born, to be soldiers. That's what they did. And if that's all that you don't know no better, right? So I think that that's kind of what I'm saying with Ethan Davis, and that's he's still kind of new to playing football. The physicality part, it doesn't necessarily click for everybody. I'm hoping that he's not going to be one of those players, because if that is how he ends up playing this year, I don't know how much we can really throw him out there. Now, obviously, we can have some gadget plays for him and all of that. But if he's it's the same thing like we talked about with Boo and with anybody else. Players have got to show, hey, I'm not always going to be out here just to catch passes. I'm going to be out here. I'm going to block. I'm going to do different things. And that's where Ethan Davis's game, I think, can step up in a very, very big way. So I wasn't, I don't think that it was absolutely horrible in the one clip that I saw him in today with his pass blocking, but it definitely wasn't good enough. He's got to get to a point where, as big as he is, dude, you're 6'5", 250. I mean, you ought to be destroying people, because you're bigger than all of Tennessee's linebackers, right? Like, you're not picking up blitzes versus tackles, or like, these are guys that you're bigger than, and you're also fast. So the physics portion of it, there's no reason that he's not tossing bodies. And I don't know what it's going to take for him to get there. That's a light that might not ever turn on. And I hate to say it that way, but we'll see how things look towards the end of spring practice. But outside of that, I think that we also got to see Jack Van Dorsalier today. He didn't look necessarily great in his one rep that we saw, but these guys are young. Like, those freshmen, I'm not really expecting for them to do too much, because being able to pick up blitzing linebackers or safeties, whatever, that's there's a technique to it. There's definitely a certain level of fundamentals that you need to have to be able to do that correctly. It's either you got to have the fundamentals down perfectly, or you better be very, very physical. And that's something that I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more of that out of our guys. Now, the coaches might not like this, but for me personally, I would much rather see guys bring that dog out in those types of physical drills. And even if you have to hold a guy, right? Like, even if you're holding them, dude, that's fine. I just want to see that you are willing to be physical. I think that early on in spring camp, that's more what the coaches are probably looking for, but I could be wrong on that. So either way, that's pretty much it for Tennessee's tight end room. Oh, you know what? The last thing that I will say for the entire offense. Now, we did hear from Nico. He kind of hinted towards like a scheme change. And I'm going to say that some of the insiders have said that they've seen Tennessee running more like tight sets. So the wide receivers, tight ends, they're not spread all the way out like we typically are. Some more like bunch sets. And P&I have been beating on that drum since last year for a long time, because you can't just – you've got to be able to mix and match. You've got to be able to come in tight and spread out wide. And you've got to be able to do that pre-snap. And I know that I keep on saying this too, but that's why I always say we've got to slow things down, because if you come out wide and you're just going fast, it minimizes the plays that you can run. It's not going to, you can't open things up as much. It's got to be very, very simple. The faster that you're going, the more simple everything has to be, right? So you can't do too much pre-snap movement and shifts and things like that. So it's very easy. If everyone's spread out wide, you know that they have to come back to the inside. Very easy just to sit on those inside routes. But if you come back to the inside sometimes, now they don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, so that's a great sign. It sounds and it feels like Coach Heupel is going to make the necessary changes. And I'm telling you, this offense, just by making those few subtle changes, we could have the exact same team as we had last year. We could go back to last year if we just added these small little wrinkles. Tennessee beats Georgia, okay? Even though I think that we did a really nice job with our offensive scheme, especially in the first half of that game. And that's part of the reason that we came out and we scored so many points so quickly, is we're doing some of those things. I don't know. I'm not going to say that we won our playoff game, but what I will say is it would have been a lot closer. Just because it's too easy just to sit on the normal stuff that Tennessee's been doing. So I thought that was a very, very positive sign. All right, so let's pull this back up And let's come over to Tennessee's running back room. So same thing here, right? Like we talked about the running backs, tight ends, doing some blocking and things like that. So I think that Deshaun Bishop, he looked pretty good. There were some reps that he could have done better with, but he's definitely willing. I'll tell you, the guy that I think looked the best as far as the pass blocking and stuff was Hunter Barnes. He's looked good for the past couple of practices now. So he's a walk-on guy. He's not the biggest guy, but his technique and his fundamentals and all of that type of stuff it's perfect. So definitely noticed that. And also noticed that with all these drills, it felt like every now and then, at least with the clips that we got to see, it felt like it was mostly veterans versus younger guys. And they're trying to get a gauge on what the younger players can do. Again, will you be physical? Can you step up? Are you ready to play at this level? That's kind of what that is. But there were some times when it was kind of like vets on vets, good on good, I guess. I hate to say good on good because I think they're all good, but vets on vets. Peyton Lewis, he looked pretty good. I saw some notes that said that he looked really good in a couple of reps. I didn't see those reps, but yeah, it sounds like he's doing some nice things. Justin Baker, he's a guy that didn't, he's definitely been struggling with his pass pro early on. And it's not because he can't physically do it. Now with the first one that we saw, I'll actually pull this back up for you. Because some of those clips will be in here in just a minute. Actually, I'm gonna take this back a taste, and we'll get right around to where our running backs are. But yeah, so I can tell you that I think that okay. So on the first one, kind of felt like he might have got banged up some. I don't know if he's maybe trying to tough through some sort of an injury, but that's not what you wanted. I mean, yeah, you do want to do that, but if it's serious enough that your play is lacking, then you need to let somebody know. You know what I'm saying? Like you just need to let them know, like, hey, I'm kind of dealing with this, and I'm still going to try to practice and all that type of stuff. But like, it's not going to help anybody for you to go out there and I'm not saying that this is the case, but that's just kind of what it looked like. Don't go out there if you're not able to play. You're never going to probably be like 100%, but if you're at like 60%, that's too low. You need to be at least like 75, okay? Especially if we're talking about spring practice and things like that. So he just needs to, again, man, work on just being physical. Sometimes the other part of it could be that maybe he's getting too much information from the coaches. He's trying to do everything right. He's trying to get his fundamentals correct. That's fine. You absolutely love that, but at the same time, sometimes you have to say, okay, this is football. On a rep like when Jeremiah Telander is trying to go straight through me. Well, next time that I see you, dog, I'm about to clean you up. See what I'm saying? Like, I think that that's what the coaches want to see from him coming back in our next practice, and that's going to be coming after spring break. So hopefully, all those freshmen will be working on their pass pro, because I think that they all need to step up right there. As far as D Morris, I didn't get to see him. I haven't seen him do any pass protection at all. I don't know why. But yeah, we need to see him too. If we're going to see Justin Baker, I think that we need to see Morris. We need to see everybody, like show us how we all look, so that, things can stay as consistent as possible. And outside of that, man, Star. So Star Thomas didn't really get to see him do any pass blocking today. Now this is the pass blocking drills here. But I think that all of our guys look good, just kind of coming out of backfield. So that's Justin Baker on his first rep. Looked like he kind of hurt his arm right there. And right there, that's Ethan Davis. That doesn't look good. Like that's patty cake stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to step up better than that. I don't know who that was on that one. It was hard for me to tell. That's the one where Justin Baker, he goes all the way to the ground, and that's going to happen every now and then. And who do we have here? So I think that's Hunter Barnes. Is that Hunter Barnes? Yeah, dude. Like, that's how it's supposed to look. That was perfect. I think that might be Jack Van Dorsalier. It kind of lets the guy get to his outside. But what I love is that he made them choose a side. Don't give him a two-way go. Take away one side and clean him up from that side. See what I'm saying? Like, if you're inside leverage, then you keep that strong inside leverage. And if they try to come to the inside, blow them up. It's as simple as that. But so anyway, moving on, I think that our running backs are going to be fine over the course of spring. Haven't seen too many clips of them. But yeah, we got a whole lot of talent. I think we've got some good looking bodies in there. So let me take a quick little break. Let me get to some of these chats real quick. The first one is from David Speaks, saying that he believes that Boo gets 20 to 25 plays on offense. Okay, maybe. And he says if he has 250 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns on offense, that's impressive. Yeah, that would be very impressive. And if he gets that many snaps, yeah, shoot. He would probably, I don't want to say that he'll end up with more than that, but yeah. So just as a point of reference, so you're saying 20 to 25 plays per game. Excuse me. What, that times 12? So that would be somewhere around 2 to 300 snaps on offense over the course of the year. And I mean, really would, probably be closer to like 300, right? Shoot, that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be more than some of our wide receivers last season. I want to say that Dante Thornton, and don't quite quote me, but he had like 400 something snaps at wide receiver last season. I don't know. You could be 100% right. You definitely could be. I just that is a lot of snaps on offense. That's a lot more than I thought. That's about double what I thought. But hey, I'm all for it. As long as Boo can hold up physically, I'll be perfectly fine with it because, like I said, man, I think that he can definitely do it. So we'll see, man. It's gonna be based off of how the rest of that star room looks. I can promise you that. If the backups look good, then Boo Carter, David, like you said, probably will get about that many snaps. And he's also saying that Ethan Davis is really a flex tight end, like an Evan Ingram. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That's probably where his skill set is best suited at. But the thing is, inside of this offensive scheme, we haven't seen us use our tight ends really as that flexed out guy. We've been calling for it, right? I mean, we've been calling for that for like the past couple of seasons. Flex these guys out. Now, that's something that you could do running tempo that would be daily. If you're going to go 12 personnel, start it off tight and then run the tempo, the next play you can flex a guy out or things like that. That's tough to stop because now you've got mismatch problems. That's what Ethan Davis is. He's a mismatch problem for sure, but he still is going to have to be physical because we got other guys that are also mismatch problems that I think are going to be more physical than Ethan Davis. So I think it would be tough for him to see the field over those guys if he can't pick the physicality part of it up. All right, so excellent points right there, David. Thank you for chiming in, sir. All right, so we're going to get on to this next room. Bear with me. All right, here we go. So offensive tackle room. Let me make sure that we didn't skip one. Okay, so running backs, we already kind of talked about them. So let's talk about Tennessee's tackles. And shoot, man, we had the whole video that just came out early this morning talking about Tennessee's offensive line. So if y'all saw that, then y'all know how I feel about these guys. We got to see Lance Hurd out there today. He's looking good. I would like to see our offensive linemen, and this is just me kind of like nitpicking, but like they do a lot of walking around. I would like for them to just jog some. That's a small way just to get in a little bit of extra cardio. And something else that P and I were just kind of talking about is, man, we got so many really big guys, and we definitely love that. But if you look at like the average NFL offensive lineman, they're about 315 pounds. Like you don't see too many guys that are over 330 playing in the NFL, even at tackle. It might be a few of them, but for the most part, they're around 315, 320. So could it maybe benefit Tennessee to get these guys around 320? Like let's say if they're 330, could we maybe cut 10 pounds of fat on those guys? Maybe they're moving around better. Maybe they hold on to their strength and things like that. I just think that could be very possible, and it could be beneficial to Tennessee's offensive line. But just looking at all these guys, absolutely love them. Like we said, Lance Hurd, I'm expecting a really big year from him. Also, Larry Johnson, he's one that we've seen. We got to see him some today, but I saw him in some of those clips coming from Twitter and places like that, Instagram. And I think that he's looking really good. There was a rep, I forget who he was blocking, but man, you want to talk about just textbook hand placement, like his hands are right here, right here in the sternum, and his face mask is like right up under his helmet is right up under the face mask there and just moving, mirroring very, very well. And he's doing that plan. I want to say he might have been at right tackle, might have been at left, but he's been working both sides. I just think the more that I'm kind of seeing him go to work, and I got to see David Sanders do it some more too, Jesse Perry too. But man, I would not be shocked if Larry Johnson gets the start in week 1 over David Sanders. I just think that it's going to be tough to keep him off the field, really tough. I think that he makes the entire offensive line better. But we'll see how all that works out. But yeah, I'm excited to see how all of these guys look. Trevor Duncan continues to be impressive for me. Let me see if we can find those clips actually. See if we can find those offensive line clips because I know that we've got some in here. Where are they at? Might be more towards the front right here. Okay, I think right around. Okay, it looks like right around here. Okay, so we're just gonna kind of like let that thing roll because it's coming up here soon. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really, really excited to see what that tackle room looks like. Okay, so we're gonna go on to the next room, and let's talk about our guards. So I didn't get to see our guards do anything today, but over the course of spring, very impressed with this room. Right, we talked about all those underclassmen. We talked about our transfer guys. Love them. I think that there's a lot more speed. And something that P and I might talk about tomorrow if we get time, but there's a lot of stuff going on tomorrow, so we might not have the time to. But that the scheme change that I could see with Tennessee because of the speed that we have at guard with really everybody, but obviously more so with those transfer guys. Man, it's going to be it's going to be great. It's going to be hard to stop Tennessee's offense. So I'm proud of those guys, and I hope that they will continue to take those strides. That's another very, very deep room. As far as Tennessee's centers, like I said, man, I think that it's going to be William Satterwhite. I think that he's going to get that start. Jesse Perry feels like he's doing a lot more guard work, but he would be another, I think, good candidate to play at center. He's a guy that if y'all did watch that film that we put out earlier, or the video that we put out earlier today, just talking about Tennessee's offensive line, fast forward to the part with Jesse Perry and watch him go to work as a true freshman. Whenever you see guys, and I know he's going up against kind of like lesser competition, but that's college players. That's guys that are older than him. He's going up against veteran college players. But whenever you see those guys looking like a high school film and they're tossing bodies, you're seeing bodies flying on several plays consecutively, it's tough to keep a guy like that off the field. And I think that that's exactly, that's exactly who Tennessee has with Jesse Perry. So we're in a really, really good spot. I think that Nick Moore is going to step up well. Max Anderson, he's another one that looked really good as a freshman. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how the competition plays out. But so far, I'm loving the entire offensive line, and I think that it's very deep. Let me get to some more of these chats because I see them coming in. The first one is from Dry FTWX saying that he's excited for David Sanders. I am too, man. I think that we should all be very excited. So here they are. We're finally getting to the offensive line clips. But yeah, you can see how good Larry Johnson looks moving. Really big guy, very well put together and things like that. David Speaks is saying, I see left tackle, Hurd, Pendleton at left guard, Satterwhite's at center. He's got Moy at right guard, and then he's got Johnson at right tackle until Sanders gets better. Now, that's interesting. So you would have Sam Pendleton playing at left guard over Wendell Moy. Now, I'm curious as to why you say that. Is it because you feel like Moy is a better run blocker? Because I could definitely see that. He might be. That's an excellent point. I could see that happening too. So the most beautiful thing about it is that we've got so many options, right? It's a lot of depth at every single spot. Now, most of this stuff we're talking about depth on paper. We got to see how the depth actually looks in the real live situations. I can't say that enough because things will most definitely change. You know what I'm saying? Like the guys can look good running around through their drills and all that type of stuff. If you're not moving bodies, if you're not, playing with that attitude, playing with that nastiness, it's not going to matter. And you got to be consistent. You also have to know what to do, right? Because you're going to get different looks. So that's what spring practice is really all about. And I'm thinking that, by the time these guys come back, not the first week coming out of spring break, but the week after that, we should have a pretty solid idea about who's looking the best on the offensive line. Now it's still summertime, things can change, but we should have a pretty good understanding of how that's going to look. Let me get to this next one right here. Okay, so David Speaks is saying, yeah, so he's got Moy on the right side for his run block, and I love that. I think that's an excellent point. All right, let me also get to Dry FTWX. Is saying it's nice to have Pendleton because he is very versatile. Pendleton is extremely versatile. I love that guy. He's got the right attitude that you want to have out of your offensive lineman. He's another one that I say about all these guys. Really smart guy. I think that he's well spoken, and he's got a whole lot of skills, man. He looks good, man. Offensive line, I think it's gonna be really, really good in 2025. All right, so let's move on to our cornerbacks. Okay, so as far as the cornerbacks go, I think that I have some notes right here talking about the corners. Probably not cornerbacks specifically. I think we've got some notes on the stars and the safeties. Yeah, so no real notes right here with our corners outside of what we saw in the video earlier today. Not the offensive line one, but the one just kind of showing practice clips and things like that. What I noticed is that Alan Williams was working with our secondary more, working with our cornerback. That's a great thing, excellent thing. And I also noticed that Tim Merritt was working and looked like with our corners. Now Tim Merritt, man, his size is crazy. He looks really good, but I think that he's a guy that he can play in different spots, right? So yeah, I thought that I think that that's a really good look. It's really positive to know that we've got some extra eyes. These guys can get some different coaching and things like that. Maybe learn some different techniques because it's playing anywhere on a football field. It's not there's different techniques that you can teach guys, and different coaches know those techniques better. So I think that with a guy like Alan Williams, he might be able to teach to all of them. I'm not saying that Coach Martinez can't do it, that Coach Banks can't do it, but again, it's just good to have someone that's just, he's got a different way of thinking maybe, or it's just a new, it's a new mind, right? It's a new set of eyes and things like that. So I love that for our cornerback room. And as far as going out to the transfer portal, at this point, I think that we'll probably. I mean, I don't know, man. Really, like we have to see. Some of these young guys can step up at backup corner. Like it sounds like Redmond's been having a really good camp so far. Actually, there was a clip. You would have to go to Kobe Thomas's Instagram to find this, but there's a clip where Kobe Thomas is mic'd up, and at the end, he actually shouts out Redmond and says, "Man, look, hey, you practice hard today." You know what I'm saying? And little things like that. Number one, coming from Kobe Thomas, that's a great thing. That's a great look. I love to see that type of like leadership, right? Because you're setting the tone about, hey, we can play with you if you're going to play with maximum effort, whether you are a freshman, whether you're a walk-on, any of that. So I think that was a positive thing for him to do in that setting. But also, it does tell us that Tyler Redmond he's up there giving his absolute all. And if he continues to do that, then he's going to help Tennessee this fall. You know what I'm saying? Is this something that he shows before spring ends? And if he does, then I don't know. I don't know that the staff would say, "Hey, we have to go out and get us, another corner from the transfer portal. Maybe we can thug it out for these first couple of weeks, first 2 or 3 weeks." Because listen, I love what J Mac's doing. You obviously love Ricky Gibson, but at the same time, it's still a little bit shorthanded, right? We've got some other guys that we feel confident with, but they're all really young. We've got several players that are going to playing at star. They're playing at safety. So they're just moving around in so many different places. So, I mean, it might be necessary to try to go add one more veteran piece. And I don't think that would necessarily disrupt Tennessee's room, especially if you can add a guy that's got one more year left. And it's fine with maybe kind of coming off of the bench. But he would really be coming here to play like that fourth-string cornerback. Or, yeah, I guess it would be fourth string at some point in the season. That's my only holdup, is it'll be very hard to find someone, I think, that would fit all of those things, like check off all those boxes. So it might just be a situation where Tennessee's going to have to, hey, freshmen, younger guys, y'all just going to have to step up. And I'm fine with that too, because Tennessee's going to be better for it on down the line, right? So we'll see how all that looks. But let's move on. Okay, let's talk about Tennessee's safety room. And also, if y'all can't see this stuff that I'm pulling up, please do let me know. I always say that, but I have to make sure that we get it out. Let me also get to some more of these right here. Let me get to some more of these chats. So David Speaks is saying that he sees Bishop as running back one. He runs the best on the right. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I really like Bishop. I like Peyton Lewis. There's things I like about both of their games. I want to see more consistent rotations, though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't necessarily want for it to be like how Dylan Sampson was last year, where he had, I don't remember how many carries, but it was way too many. I want to say it was like 258 carries. It was too many. And I get it, because he was, to me, the second best running back in all of college football last season. So, yeah, you want to lean on that guy. But we also have to give guys a break, because what did we see with Dylan Sampson at the end of the season? Whenever we probably needed him the most, he couldn't go for us, right? Because he's banged up. Like, we're running him into the ground. So hopefully Coach Sims figured that out. But, yeah, I love Bishop. I like what I've seen from Star Times. I like what I've seen from all those running backs in spurts up to this point. And from Dry FTWX is saying that wish that Star Thomas had more speed. Yeah, so Star Thomas, I don't remember what his top speed was, but I know that we had looked it up. If y'all go back and watch the video that we did on Star, talking about Star, we probably mentioned it right there. But I want to say that he's, it was maybe like 20 miles per hour, like 21 miles per hour, which that's about average for a running back. These guys, running backs, they don't have to absolutely have the best top end speed. I definitely get it. It's not going to hurt you to have better speed, but they don't really need it. Like, you need to be able to have good balance. Your stop to start's got to be quick. You got to be able to, burst really fast and things like that, and be able to, get through small little creases and use your eyes well. It's more of that type of stuff with running backs, because it's rare that they can ever really utilize their speed, because it's rare that they'll ever get out into the open field. See what I'm saying? Like, for the speed to even matter, you got to kind of find an edge or something. You got to find some space. So our running backs typically don't find too much space. It's more about being able to run tough and physical and kind of get what's there and get a little bit more. I think the Star Thomas can do all those things. He has really good hands also coming out of the backfield. So there's some very positive things. But listen, bro, I definitely feel you on that. All right, we're going to get some more of these chats from David Speaks. Is saying, are we sure that Gibson is coming back? I haven't seen anything official. I'm hopeful that Beasley and Gorey step up. Yeah, so I didn't really talk about Marcus Gorey, but I like him too playing a corner. He's getting a look at star. But yeah, Ricky Gibson, I don't think that anyone has come out and said officially that he is coming back, but he is coming back. He wouldn't be doing spring practice right now. And I don't want to, like taking those risks, I'll just say it that way. He wouldn't be out there taking those types of risks of going through spring practice if he was not going to be staying with Tennessee. There would be absolutely no point. So I'm sure that deal got worked out. And it's been some rumors out there that I've heard that Tennessee's got, I don't know if I want to say it too loud, but Tennessee's got plenty of money. It just kind of sounds like I think that we're doing it right in some instances where now, number one, if the rumors out there about Ricky Gibson only making $400,000, if that's true, then he was underpaid and he needed to get that raise because he's one of the best cornerbacks in the entire country. And y'all will see that as we go through this season. As we get towards the end of the season and you start to look at the mock drafts, you're going to see both of our cornerbacks are going to be very high up on all those mock draft boards as far as cornerbacks go. So I'm saying all those things just to say he needed to, if he's only making $400,000, he needed to get paid more money. But it does sound like Tennessee's been holding on to some money is what it sounds like. I don't know how true that is, but I kind of feel like there could be some truth to it. It's not that we didn't have the money to pay Ricky Gibson. But he's probably already gotten paid. That's kind of where I'm going at with this. I feel like he's probably already gotten paid. But yeah, I feel very confident that he's going to stay, just unless he changes his, unless he wants to back out of the deal that he probably just got from my dog T and Junior. What's going on, dog? Saying late, but here, stupid adulting job. BSA, I definitely feel you on that. Saying that we're deep in the running back room and going to be interesting to see who gets the load of the snaps. Yeah, for sure, man. We got some good problems. So we'll get to my dog D Taylor saying that my feelings at running back this year is more like 2023, where our top three guys all get carries every game. That's how it should be. I think that's the way that it needs to look moving forward. If we could just have, which I feel like we do. I mean, look, you got 3, 4, 5 studs. Rotate them all in. Like, there's no reason that we can't rotate in all those guys if they understand the plays, if they can all pass block and all that. That's the stress that the players should be putting on this coaching staff. Hey, we should all be playing. And that's the spot that I'm hoping that Tennessee will get to by fall camp. But let's talk about Tennessee safety room. I've got a couple of notes right here. So let me pull up my notes. Actually, I'm going to pull this back up for you as I'm pulling up my notes. So with our safeties, right? So they didn't really do any of the pass blitzing stuff, right? Like not going up against those running backs and tight ends. But some of them did, but some of them didn't. So the safeties that some of the safeties actually split up with Coach Martinez, and they were working on some pre-snap motion stuff. And that was Caleb Beasley, Sidney Walton, John Slaughter, Edris Farouk, and Kobe Thomas. So working on pre-snap movement, that's always a really, really good thing. Those guys right there kind of feels like maybe those would be more of Tennessee's free safeties. Maybe. Okay, I'm just saying maybe that's possible. Because they're not working as much on blitzing, even though I think that both the Tennessee safeties need to blitz. But these are the guys that we're probably going to want more in coverage because they're working with our cornerbacks coach. I'm just kind of throwing that out there just so that y'all can get a, maybe like an early picture at how our free safety room might look. The guys that we talk about, they have to come up to the line of scrimmage and play that press coverage. That, the last guys that the ones we just mentioned, again, Caleb Beasley, Sidney Walton, John Slaughter, Kobe Thomas, and Edris Farouk. Those guys, okay, probably going to be playing more at free, and we need to see some good coverage skills from them. So outside of that, I liked what I saw from our safeties. We saw Andre Turrentine win his rep versus Justin Baker. Now, Justin Baker is a freshman, but he's also a little bit heavier than Andre Turrentine is. So, I think the Turrentine's looking really, really good. And as far as the other guys that could kind of be like safety bodies, what they did today, or I'm sorry, not safety bodies, but the guys that would be more like star players, we'll actually get to Tennessee star room. So we had Boo Carter, we had Dylan Lewis, and I think that's all that I had in my notes. Excuse me, as far as the guys that were working. Yeah, so those were the star players that were working on that blitz, right? So we're seeing that Dylan Lewis is over there. I'm not quite sure about Trey Poteet, but he's a guy that I really like so far playing at star. I like him in a lot of different spots. He's a very versatile guy. That's something that we've done a brilliant job with, is just going out and getting several versatile players, whether it's in the secondary or, on the front seven, whatever, or just doing a really good job right there, guys that we can mix and match in different situations. So, man, like we said, we're going to talk more about this one. Because if we can get some players to step up right here behind Boo, then he can get more snaps on offense, right? The main reason that he wouldn't get more is because we need him so much playing the start. That's a tough position to play. Very hard to find a player that can do what Boo's been doing, man. And that's next level. Boo, for me, I know that he only played one season, but if he can put together 2 more years just like that, he could, he's could potentially be maybe the first secondary player taken. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how good. I think that he played last season, right? He just has to keep on doing that. He has to, keep on replicating that over and over and over again. But I like we said, I love Dylan Lewis for his coverage skills, for his length. He's showing some good physicality. We got to see how he looks in real life situations. Same thing could be said about Trey. I think Trey's a little bit stockier, maybe not as long, but different body types there. I love Marcus Gorey because I think he's kind of like a mix, kind of like a hybrid of Dylan Lewis and also Trey, right? Because it's kind of like a longer guy, but he's also kind of solid, not super thick, but his coverage is going to be good. So we've got some good names here. By the way, we still have Jordan Thomas, who at some point is going to be back. Hopefully he's going to be healthy by the start of the season. So hopefully he can come back by like fall camp. But I feel like we've got enough depth. Also feel like Redmond could play there. Beasley could play there. So, maybe Boo does get some more reps. But so far, so good. I think that they've looked really good. We've been hearing some really good things about these guys, just kind of like going throughout all of spring camp. So let's talk about Tennessee's linebackers. We're actually going to get to them today. I hate that we left off. I hate that we missed out on that on Wednesday. But didn't really hear too much about them today. Now, obviously, we got to see Jeremiah Thielander going to work. He looked really good. I mean, he looked really good for the most part in these blitzing drills. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, going up against some of the younger guys, he looked good. I also saw in some of the notes that he went versus Miles Kitselman a couple of times, and Miles Kitselman beat him one time, and it sounds like JT beat Miles Kitselman one time. And right here, he's doing up downs. I'm not quite sure why. I think that was the rep that he just kind of went straight through Justin Baker, but I'm not sure what he's doing those up downs for. It actually kind of looked like Jeremiah was pissed off on that one. I don't know if he was mad at Justin Baker. Probably not. He might have been mad because he messed up on the previous rep. That could be it, but that just looked like he was pissed off. So either way, I thought that he's looked good. I think that Ben Bolton, he's been looking really good. I think that Edwin Spillman, we've heard some good things about him. He's been flashing, looking really, really good. And Jordan Burns, same thing there. Brendan Ains, he's looked pretty good. There was a couple of times in some drills where he wasn't doing the drill 100% right, but that's going to happen. I mean, look, freshmen, things like that will happen. I like what he's done so far, though. And I think that he's a player, man. I think that he's going to be really good for Tennessee. I don't know how much he's going to be able to play this season. We have to see how he looks compared to the other freshman linebackers, and that room is very deep. But I would not be surprised if he gets maybe more snaps than some of the backup linebackers got last season. Like, maybe more snaps than like a Jordan Burns, right? Because I think Jordan Burns only got maybe 6 or 7 snaps last year. Brendan Ains might get more than that, and I think that he's going to do very, very well. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it with Tennessee's linebackers. It's several guys that we just have not seen just yet that I'm excited to see how they look. And, I think that we're going to be fine inside of that room. I have pretty much no concerns there. It's a lot of guys that just look like they can cover, they can hit, they're getting off blocks hard. That's something else that I want to kind of talk about with Jeremiah Thielander. Whenever you're seeing him shedding blocks and stuff, I mean, he's tossing sleds. He's doing a lot. He's definitely amped up. I'm gonna say that he's taking it up a whole nother notch, and he's the unquestioned leader of that group right now in spring with Arion Carter not being out there. So we'll see how the starting lineup looks. All right, let's talk about Tennessee's Leo room. So still haven't seen them. I mean, they're not showing these guys enough. I don't know what they're hiding here. Maybe it's because we have so many players that are banged up and aren't really going through as much. Now, like we talked about before, we do have Jordan Ross up here in yellow because it sounds like he was going through some reps. Sounds like he's looking really good. Actually, I've got some notes right here with our defensive line as a whole. All right, so these are the guys so far that some of the insiders are kind of highlighting, saying that they're looking really good physically and all of that type of stuff. So obviously, Bryson Eason looking good. We have Don Bailey, Tyree West, Jackson Moy. Like we talked about, Jackson Moy is definitely stepping up as that vocal leader. Joshua Joseph, they're saying that he's looking really good, looking even more twitchy than he did last season. That's a great thing because that is his game. He's a guy with just like extremely, extremely long arms and using his speed, throwing a little counter move in there every now and then. He's going to be tough to block. He's going to be a problem. But we're also hearing that Jordan Ross has been looking really good. We've been hearing that Campbell's been looking good. Carson Gentle, Kellen Lindstrom, all those guys so far have been looking great. So, I mean, this room, obviously, we already know that it's going to be loaded. It's always loaded. That's just how That's just how Tennessee rolls. As far as some things that I could maybe highlight here, that I'm going to be looking out for. Like I said, I want to see Joshua Josephs and Caleb Herring get a little bit better in their pass coverage. I don't know if Tennessee, obviously, we're still going to drop those Leos in the coverage sometimes, but do we not do it as much as we did in 2024? Maybe do we take a step back with that? I think that it's possible because there were some times where I said, dude, let them eat. You know what I'm saying? Bring them off of the edge. And something else that I think that we'll see more from with Tennessee is more of having two Leos out there at the same time. So in Tennessee's 2-4-5 and in our 3-4, that's where we're going to have two of our pass rushing guys, obviously the Leos, out there at the same time. We might see more of that. I really, really like how that looks. And we typically would slide in one of our ends. So one of our strong side ends, it's been Don Bailey, but I think that Tyree West could do that too. But, they would slide in and play some tackle for us. And then we would have like a 3 technique typically. Sometimes we'll have one of the bigger guys, but that's typically how Tennessee's done it. And that could be really deadly with this lineup. So let's go on to the next. Let's go on to the next one. Let's talk about our strong side DNs. We just kind of highlighted some of the players that have been looking good so far. Tyree West, man, I'm so excited to see him go to work because he's looked good. Dating back to that Citrus Bowl, I think that was like his coming out party. Looked really good there, and he is not taking literally not even half of a step backwards. He's only gone forwards. So if he continues with that trend, he's another one. He's going to be a problem, a potential first-round draft pick if he just continues to make those strides. So I feel like he's going to be getting that start right there. Now, the other part, do we think Don Bailey maybe goes at number 2? Probably, right, just because he is that vet. But I also feel like in certain situations, Don Bailey could actually play a true defensive tackle for us, especially at like a 3 technique. I think that he will be really good there. So we could maybe see Tyree Weathersby take that jump up. If he does take that jump up, Marion Dye's a guy that I feel like could also be in that same mix. Kellen Lindstrom, like we said, has been looking good. Carson Gentle, all these guys. I think that Campbell's probably going to stick to the 3 technique, but sometimes we could definitely put him out there and play the strong side end as well. So very deep, very versatile with all these players. Now, finally, let's talk about Tennessee's defensive tackle room. And like we touched on, I don't know if we necessarily need to go out to the transfer portal, just unless there's a veteran out there that's going to come at our price, that's going to buy into the coaching from Coach Gardner, from Coach Chop, from all those guys. You're gonna have to buy into it, and you're gonna have to be someone that we feel like, hey, you got to fit within our top 3D. If they can do that, and I would say it probably would need to be a bigger guy. We're probably pretty solid at the 3. I don't know if we need any more 3 techniques. Now, obviously, again, I'm going to keep on saying this. If they're really good, then yeah, you don't just pass up really good tackles. That's really hard to find, and those guys typically cost a lot of money. So I think that if we could find a big guy that's over about 320 pounds, that's going to play with the type of violence and all that type of stuff, with the type of discipline that Coach Gardner wants, then yeah, we would probably kick the tires on him. But outside of that, I think that this room is actually fine, even though I was kind of I was concerned about it pre-spring, but now just kind of seeing these guys moving around and all that, I feel good with it. So let's get on to some more of these chats from my dog Tristan. What's going on, Tristan? I haven't heard from you in a good minute. Saying that one guy that he is excited for is Edwin Spillman. Last year, how they all said he wouldn't put thumping on someone, but got hurt. Oh, I'm sorry, he would put a thumping on someone, but got hurt. Yeah, I've been excited about him too. I think just in watching his high school film, because that's how he played then. Having a chance just to kind of talk to him too, you could tell that he definitely gets it. But yeah, he's going to have a really big season. I think he's one of those guys, man. He's a really hot name, and he hasn't disappointed me, like not one bit. There's nothing that he's done. I'm actually even say this, going from his high school film to what he's done now. I think one of our questions was, can he do coverage? Like, is he going to look good on coverage? Now we knew that he looked good in coverage, but I don't know if I knew that he was going to be as good as he looked last season in coverage. If you go back to that Vanderbilt game, it wasn't perfect. But one of the things that I loved about him is he's not covering grass in his zone coverages. He's looking around, finding people. And that's also credit to Coach Inge. He's a hell of a coach. I love what he's doing. And hey, he's been fiery for these past couple of practices. He's laying into those guys. So I love that dude. He's awesome. But either way, doing a great job with all those linebackers. And yeah, Edwin Spillman, he's a name for us to watch out for. He could potentially get he's going to rotate in a lot if he's not starting. Also from Tristan, he's saying that Marion Dye is special, and he's got a good feeling about that kid. It's going to bring something different to that room for sure. And he's saying that from what he's seen, no one really compares to him, size, speed, strength, etc. Yeah, I think that he's definitely in last year's class. For me, he is, whenever you talk about a size, to speed, to just like athlete combination and all that type of stuff, it's him and it's David Sanders. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not taking a shot at anybody else because we had some really good athletes come in, but seeing him at, what, he was 6'5", almost 270 when he was in high school. Listen, this is a guy that I said, hey, he could play Leo at a high level. None of our Leos are 270 pounds. Okay. They're all like, 250, and under. That's about how all of our Leos look. But for him to have the size of like a strong side end, have the room to fill out to be a tackle and see him playing out in space, you know that he can cover. You know that he's gonna, he could play daggum stand up Mike linebacker for you because he's that sort of an athlete. So yes, I'm very excited about seeing Marion Dow go to work. And it sucks for me that he's been a little bit banged up. Now, what I'm hoping as we're kind of wrapping things up is I'm hoping that most of the players, especially these younger guys that were a little bit banged up, maybe some of them start to get cleared to do a little bit more after spring break, and we'll get to see them move around some more. Just because as deep as this team already looks, this is still Tennessee's floor. A lot of guys we haven't seen go out there just yet, but I think that once those guys come back, this team is going to be a very serious problem. But it all has to come together. Let me get to my dog right here, TN Jr. saying that he can't wait for the games to get going. Baseball is going to beat the Gators, and the basketball team going to smash TU. GBFO. Yes, sir. And you know what? We're going to end it on that one because we do have to start to get ready, man. We got to start to get ready for a very busy day. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And, we might come back with some maybe like post-game stuff, but it's going to be a little bit later on tonight. So we'll see how that goes. But we'll definitely be talking to y'all tomorrow if we don't talk to y'all later on today. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. And please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we will see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.